Welcome back to CityLine. We are in our final fabulous segment. And with me, I have the Laboratory Operations Manager of Cascade Regional Blood Services. Please join me in welcoming Richard Freed. Richard, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Amanda. I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to be here. There is such an important information we need to get out right now. You were just preceded by the health department and, of course, the city of Tacoma also talking about COVID-19 financial resources. And now we need to talk about something that is the life source for everybody, and that is blood. We hear in the news and on the television that our hospitals are receiving a lot of patients, and that leads me to ask the question of you: what effect has the COVID-19 had on our blood supply, Richard?
Well, as you know, there's a lot of shelter-in-place mandates going on right now. And unfortunately, that means that our available supply of blood donors goes away with those in place. Nationally, this has been a pretty big crisis. This isn't a local issue by any means. Across the nation, we've seen about 12,000 blood drives get canceled. This has been over 300,000 units nationally. And when we're talking about this isn't just within a week. This is in the next few weeks, few months ahead of time. And so we've been working really diligently in the past 2 weeks. And fortunately, the outpouring of support from the Tacoma and South Pierce County has been tremendous. We are not concerned about our short-term supply. That is actually very healthy right now. But we don't want to be complacent and keep our eye off the ball, because we are worried still about the next weeks and months, because as everyone knows right now, we don't know what the end of this whole outbreak is going to be.
Absolutely. Every day that we wake up, and I know that you share this, it is the new normal, which it's so full of uncertainty that we don't know how long this is going to last. So, as you said, we are all sheltering in place and also observing social distancing, which does make it hard to collect blood. My first time I ever gave blood as an adult was in a mobile unit that pulled up into the parking lot of where I worked. And about 10 of us came in, sat down, and got poked in the arm, and then had great cookies and great grape juice. Well, that can't happen right now, as we all know. So the question I have for you, given that this virus is all around us, is donating blood safe?
Absolutely. So this has been specifically endorsed by not only the FDA, but Governor Inslee. They've recognized that, there are a lot of, precautions that are being taken, but this is absolutely safe, and it is essential at this point. And we support the healthcare system, but we are not treating patients. So this is a place where healthy people gather. We take safeguards to screen our donors. So there's not a increased risk from donating blood.
On that note, Richard, let's talk about what are the precautions you are taking to keep donors and patients, and of course, this wonderful team and staff safe.
Yeah, so we've had to implement a lot of things, and as you know, this is an evolving process. It's changing day to day. So just as we started getting more donors in, we had to start implementing social distancing into place. So we've had to limit our capacity, basically. Typically, a mobile blood drive, we might be able to process 50 people in a single bus. Obviously, we can't be doing that right now. So we've had to basically limit how many people can be in at one point. Of course, the first thing we did was increase our sanitation practices. So that's going with a much greater frequency than we would before. We're implementing pre-screening. So even before you walk through the door, we're asking some questions of whether or not you should even be in our facilities. We're also implementing actions with staff wellness and protection. So we're monitoring our staff for symptoms. We're informing them to self-quarantine and stay at home if they've had anything suspicious go on.
Wow, you guys have pretty much covered all bases. So I want to ask this question. Can the coronavirus be transferred through a blood transfusion?
At this point, there is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that this can be transmitted through blood. And this is just the nature of the virus itself. And so there's been no cases of transfusion related transmission of COVID-19.
Oh, excellent. That's a big relief, and I am pleased to hear that. So, Richard, what hospitals do you serve?
So we are the primary supporter of the Pierce County Tacoma area. So we do serve the entire multi-care system. So that is, medical facilities in Tacoma, Auburn, Puyallup, Covington, Gig Harbor, basically the whole South Sound area.
Wow, that is impressive. That's a very far and wide reach. So, in light of that, are hospitals canceling elective surgeries given that we're okay now with our blood supply, but we don't know where we're going to be down the road?
Yes, they have canceled them. I don't think that the primary driver of it was actually the blood supply, but just resources in general. Our partner hospitals canceled them about 2 weeks ago, and then it became a mandate basically a week ago from the state. So they were a little ahead of the curve. But with blood, it's not just used for elective procedures. There's cancer treatments, all sorts of emergencies. So we're still kind of monitoring how that's impacted the use. It's only 2 weeks out, so a little early to tell how that will impact the blood supply. I imagine it will alleviate some of the stress, though.
I would imagine. Richard, who should not donate blood?
At this point, we are following all the guidelines established by the CDC. So if you are suspected of having anything, we ask you to stay at home, self-quarantine, and we have quarantine procedures in place. So we ask that you remain symptom-free for a certain amount of time before you come in. If you have a fever, if you're in a high-risk group, for COVID-19, we ask you to stay at home as well. We don't want to put you at an increased risk for anything. We are a highly regulated environment. We have all sorts of procedures on who can and can't donate. We encourage anyone, if they have any question whatsoever, to reach out to some of our donor specialists. They can answer that for you. Yeah, quite a complex answer.
Well, I do have to say, and I often share this when we're talking about blood donation, is that about 10 years ago, when I went to give blood at one of the mobile units, I found out that I was anemic and I could not give blood. And that led to a further autoimmune diagnosis for me down the road. And I always think of it as giving blood really saved my life in many, many ways. So I'm always encouraging people to do that. And then the question comes up, well, how often can I donate blood?
So people can donate blood every 56 days. The biggest challenge with that is that whole blood or red blood only has a shelf life of 42 days. So we need to maintain that consistent donor to maintain a healthy supply for the community.
Okay, and you had said shelf life of blood products is, you said 46 days?
42.
42 days. Okay. All right. So if somebody is thinking of, we can't get a blood donating party together because of social distancing. But if you are someone that has friends and you want to stagger your time and you believe you're healthy, it sounds like they will not be turned away from the Cascade Regional Blood Services.
Yeah, so we are implementing now what has become a appointment only system to maintain that social distancing. So and this is an evolving situation. Everything's changing day by day. Appointment only is not something we really wanted to do, but it's kind of necessary for the time. So I
Okay.
would encourage everyone to stay up to date on all of our websites and social media because everything's changing. So obviously we want to harbor the relationship of helping the community, and certainly don't want to turn anyone away, but we do have to kind of keep our expectations in check given the situation.
Absolutely. Richard, should this situation change quickly, what is the best website for us to get information about the needs of the blood services or blood bank, or currently how much blood we need?
That would be crbs.net. That the CRBS is for Cascade Regional Blood Services, and it's .net. We're also on Facebook and a couple other social medias too, and sometimes those are up to date and can kind of share our news on there as well.
All right, Richard, I want to say thank you so much for first off taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule right now, and then also allowing us to come into your beautiful living room. And I want to say to you to stay safe, and to your beautiful partner to stay safe. And congratulations on a new baby coming in May. And I want to get you back on the Zoom here real soon. Should things change. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you too. I really appreciate you inviting us on here, and you've made this a joy to be on.
Well, you are a joy to listen to. So take care of yourself. All right.
You too.
All right. Well, that wraps up another great segment of CityLine. It is always a pleasure and privilege, especially to be in your home via Zoom. We've given you some real critical and crucial information right now as our world is ever changing. I'm not going to ask you to go out there and pay it forward as I always do. I'm going to ask you to remember our governor's directive to stay home, shelter in place, social distance. But I'm also going to ask you to not emotionally distance yourself from your loved ones. Check in with them, check in with your elderly neighborhoods. And remember, we're all in this together, and everyone is someone's son or daughter. And I'll see you next week right back here on CityLine. Please take care.
Tacoma, that's my home, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. Oh, you're from Seattle. Oh, you're from LA. Oh, you're from Chicago, but Tacoma's where you'll stay. Oh, you're from Seattle. Oh, you're from LA. Oh, you're from Chicago, but Tacoma's where you'll stay, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. From the fires to the loam. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home. The place I call my own. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. Oh, you're from the easy. Oh, you're from Green Bay. Oh, you're from Atlanta, but Tacoma's where you'll stay. Oh, you're from the easy. Oh, you're from Green Bay. Oh, you're from Atlanta. East Coast. Alright, you're from the West. Alright, you're from the middle, but Tacoma's still the best. Alright, you're from the East Coast.